Hey guys, we're going to be walking through the setup for the Zoom H4N when you're doing some podcast recording in person. So using the method that we're going to go over today, we're going to assume that you're going to have the Zoom with you. We're going to have two mics. You know, the ATR 2100 is the mic of choice, and you're going to be recording in person with just two people. So there are some options to record with 3 or 4, but we're going to just do 2 for right now. So you can see the Zoom here. First thing to do, it should come with a power source, a battery pack. You want to actually plug that in. Make sure the Zoom stays plugged in the whole time. That way you don't have to worry about batteries dying in the middle of the recording or anything like that. You just don't want to have to worry about that at all. On the left-hand side, you're going to see power button. Go ahead and push that on, and it will start firing up. While I'm waiting for that, a few things on the side. The remote is something that you're probably not going to worry about. This line in right here, let me turn this for you so you can see it. This line in right here is for a pair of headphones. So if you want to listen while you're recording to monitor the levels and everything. This volume is the volume of the headphones, so how loud you're listening back. USB to plug the USB cable into your computer. Obviously there's the power button. And then on this side we have the slot for the SD card here. The recording level, which will set the gain for the microphones that you're using, and then the menu and the scroll wheel to go through the menu right here, which we're going to be using a lot of. All right, cool. So we're going to start off with this blank screen. Now, before you do anything, before when you're recording, there's one thing that you want to be do before you start recording. Hit the menu button, and you're going to scroll all the way down to SD card. And you click in the scroll wheel to select, and then go down to format and click yes. Before you record, no matter what, you definitely want to format and make sure the SD card is empty. That way you don't have any issues running out of space. And then once you're done recording, take all of the files off the SD card onto your computer, and just basically make sure you format it as a habit before all recordings. So let's wait for that to finish up. All right, cool. So we're done now. And it's going to take us back to the main screen. Now, we're going to do this this setup once, and once you do this, it should save your settings. You don't have to do it ever again when you're ready to record. I just want to run through, make sure things are set properly before you start recording. So hit the menu button, and we're going to scroll through a few options here, and just make sure you have everything set up the right way. So folder you don't have to worry about. This is if you select a specific folder where you want to save your recordings. You should not have to worry about that. We can skip. File. No file. That means there's no file on the card right now because we just formatted it. So that's for you to load up what you've recorded and listen back to it if you want to make sure you're just see how the recording turned out. Input. And we're going to scroll through a few things here too. So low cut. Make sure that the low cut for the mic and the input is completely off. And then we'll hit the menu button to go back. Next, compressor limiter. Make sure those are both off as well. And then the monitor. So the monitor you want to turn on or off based on if you're listening to the recording while you're doing it. So I would say in general leave that off. You're not going to be using headphones. Level auto, you can leave that off as well. Mono mix should be off as well. This is very important. You want to make sure that stays off. Otherwise, it's going to sum both of your microphones that you're recording with down to one track, which will make mixing in post a little cumbersome. MS Matrix, you can leave off. Phantom power. This is for certain microphones that need a power source when you're recording. If you are using if you're plugged in and you're not running off of battery, I recommend keeping this on just in case. That way you don't have to worry about the setting. And plug-in, this is if you're going to use plug-in power, which we are. So on. And then we'll hit the menu button to go back. Next is recording settings. Recording format. You can generally leave it at 44.1 and 16-bit. That's fine. Auto record. This means it will record as soon as it turns on. You can set some settings here. I generally leave it off. That way I'll just set that manually when we're ready. Pre-record you can leave off. File name default is fine. And that's it for that setting. And go back down to the tool. This is for metronomes and things. I don't use any of these. And tuners if you're recording instruments. So you can skip that menu altogether. play mode. Again, this is only if you're going to be playing back and listening to the recordings, which in general you are not. So you could ignore that menu as well. System, general things, date and time, backlight, contrast. You can set these at your for whatever you prefer. Go back. SD card. As we saw earlier, this is just to format the card before recordings, so don't forget about that. USB, storage, or audio interface. So if you have your computer with you, you can actually use this as an interface and record directly into GarageBand or into Audacity or something using this as an interface. But we're not going to worry about that because we're going to be doing mobile. Mode. So there are a few modes here that you can do. Stereo is the main one where you're going to be using 2 tracks, which we're going to be plugging the mics in here at the bottom. And then 4-channel, you can use actually 2 mics in the bottom and these 2 mics here up top. So I recommend sticking with stereo unless you need to use the built-in mics and the plug-in mics. So stereo should be standard for you. And that's it for the menu. So the last thing, hit menu to go back to the main screen. And the last thing that we're going to do is set up to record. So I have 1 mic here. You will probably have 2 if you're doing in-person interviews. So just plug the mic into the bottom here, both of them. And once those are both plugged in, you have to select your input source here. So mic is going to be these microphones built in, and 1 and 2 are inputs 1 and 2 at the bottom. So once they're plugged in, hit record once, and it's going to arm the input levels here so you can see what your inputs are going to be. And you can see as I'm talking or as I tap these mics, it's giving me some signal here on the screen. This is where you're going to use the recording level buttons here. And you can set your mic level from 0 all the way up to 100 based on how loud the input source is. So you can see as I'm talking right now, it's not even getting up to 24. So I'm actually going to crank this up a little bit. And basically you want to, when you're talking into the mic, you want it to be hitting generally in between -24 and -12. You can see the decibel marks here at the bottom. Just make sure it's under -12 for sure, because that way when there's something specifically loud or if you guys laugh or something, it's not going to distort. So I'd say safely right around -24, maybe a little bit in between, and you should be good. So that's for this mic's here. And then remember, if you're plugged in here, select input 1 and 2. And once you're getting signal, and once you have both of those plugged in, you can hit record again, and it will start actually recording. Take as much time as you need. Once you hit record, before you actually start, I mean, there's no problem leaving some dead air in the beginning just to make sure you have enough space at the beginning and the end of your recordings. And now you're rolling. So now it's actually telling you what the name of that file is going to be. And once you're done, just hit stop. It will take a moment to save the file, and then you're good to go. Now it's saved onto the SD card, and then you can move on to capturing the files off of there and getting them into Dropbox or getting them onto your computer. So, and that's it for the settings for the H4. And then once you're done, just go ahead and turn this back off. And you're all set.